how much, and we've seen 2 playoff games now from Kevin O'Connell, and I am a big Kevin O'Connell fan.
Yeah.
But you make your legacy in January,
right?
Not September through December. Yes, he's the only coach in Vikings history to have multiple 13-win seasons. Having 17-game seasons helps. Bud Grant had 14-game seasons, or he would have had multiple 13-game seasons. I'm not taking anything away from it. I'm just putting it in context. But if when the time comes to go to the postseason, you are not going to self-scout yourself and get ahead of all the stuff you've put out there on tape and understand how they are going to try to zig when you zag while also trying to get ahead of their tendencies. We've seen it twice now. The defense was the problem against the Giants in 2022.
Right.
The offense was the problem this time around. And, Chris, look, I'm just going to say this, and I'm not expressing an opinion here. I'm just being candid with my assessment of the situation. There was tension between the Vikings and O'Connell that manifested in Jay Glazer saying what he said Week 18 Sunday. Multiple teams are interested in trading for Kevin O'Connell. Now, O'Connell's leverage was as high as it could have been through 17 weeks of a regular season at the time. In the 2 weeks since then, his leverage has dropped. How far? Maybe not as far as Sam Darnold's, but it's dropped. And the challenge is going to be this. The Wilfs and O'Connell getting on the same page as to where his leverage currently is and what impact 31-9 and 27-9 have had on his bargaining power. Because if they can't, then I believe O'Connell will say, fine, I'll finish my contract and I'll leave as a free agent, which would then prompt the Vikings under this high-stakes football chess match to ask themselves, do we just trade him to the Jets now after they hire his college roommate, Doug Muji, to be the GM? And that would be the clue that it's coming. If they hire Muji to be the GM, they're trading for O'Connell to be the coach. Watch the Jets. Watch the possibility of a trade. And it's all going to come down to whether or not the two sides can agree on the impact of the last 2 games on O'Connell's leverage. Because all the great things you can say about Kevin O'Connell, the last 2 games have significantly impacted his leverage.
I hear you there to a degree. Let me give a little context, though. I mean, again, he's going to be able to sit there and go, wait, guys, I went 14-3 with Sam Darnold. The whole league was telling me he wasn't any good, right? He's going to also put on the clip of the Detroit game and go, yeah, we lost 31-9, but look at these plays. Guys wide open, guys wide open, guys wide open. Like, we didn't throw it. I don't know. Yeah,
do the wild card game now.
But now wild card game is like, oh, crap. Oh, no, they're doing some stuff to us. Oh, he did miss a throw. Oh, crap, that surprised me. Oh, no, I'm going to panic and go for it on 4th down in my own area. I mean, there was definitely a little issues there, definitely. But still, Sam Darnold is going to be a big part of what we saw the other night, too. Here's my big thing. I think they're crazy if they let Kevin O'Connell go. You know that. I think he's one of the 5 best offensive minds in the game. My biggest problem with Kevin O'Connell as a coach or a play caller is just this one thing. And these type of games, you can't just always think, it's Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and we could just throw on everybody all the time. The Vikings never have a run game they can depend on in any of these big football games. And man, is that hard. And the Rams basically played pass defense the whole game. They basically went, you won't run it. Your run's not that good anyways. We're just going to make sure Addison and Justin Jefferson don't tear us apart. And they played that angle. And to me, that's the one next step Kevin O'Connell can take is advancing his run game prowess, creativity, physicality, all of that. That hurts them in big game football against good playoff-type defenses.
Okay, let's pretend you and I own the Vikings, okay?
Yep.
Vikings fans everywhere should be very glad that's not the case. We've just had a negotiating session with O'Connell's agent, and it's become clear that there is an impasse over the impact of the last 2 games on his leverage. O'Connell's people want a lot more than we're willing to pay, and we have agreed to disagree on that. So we are left with 2 choices. Keep O'Connell for 1 more year and watch him become a coaching free agent, or trade him to a team like the Jets if the Jets or whoever else call up and they want to try to make a deal, if O'Connell would even do it. Remember, we talked about this earlier. O'Connell can say, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing it. I'm going to become a free agent or fire me if you want to fire me. But for those choices, if you know you're not going to get a deal done with him, Do you keep him for one more year as a lame duck, knowing that something's off, something's amiss, and it might affect the team this year? Or do you take what you can get from another team and move on now? What would you want to do?
Well, if you really felt like wow, this isn't going to work and there's no future, then yeah, you try to make that trade happen. But like you said, he's got to be on board. It's just like the quarterback that doesn't have the no trade clause. Nobody's going to trade for the guy if he doesn't want to go work there and play quarterback there, right?
Right.
So that's the big thing there. But I mean, I would say for the Wilfs, if it comes to a point where you can't, like, gosh, just sit back and try to work on it throughout the year. There's just very, very few times a coach like this comes across your organization. It's everything you talk about all the time. Team trying to find awesome offensive coach who now can develop young quarterback. We've seen the guy develop every freaking quarterback in the world, and now he's got a young quarterback that can be developed and maybe be everything you always talk and want it to be. So the future could be so bright there with J.J. McCarthy and Kevin O'Connell and all that. And that's where I would just say to the Wilfs, damn, get it done. I mean, just get them in the market of the top guys in football, but it's going to be tough. I hear you.
I understand.
Yeah.
10 days ago, blank check for Kevin O'Connell. Now there's an impact on the leverage. And if they can't agree on the impact of the leverage and what it does relative to what he would have made if he'd won against the Lions and had been the number one seed in the NFC, that's the issue. That's the issue. So we'll see how it plays out. It's one of the things to watch, one of the biggest things to watch in the short term for the Vikings, because if O'Connell's going to be traded to another team, his people are going to want to bring this thing to a head sooner rather than later, whereas the Vikings might want to kick the can until all the seats are taken. Then the leverage swings back to them. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.